The play-in begins tomorrow between the 7th and 8th seed of each conferences. Up first is the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat on Hoop Talks. Welcome back to Hoop Talks, you guys. I'm your host, Noor Zainab, Jelani Goodridge-Reid, Justin Pooni, and the festivities begin tomorrow in the NBA play-in fashion. We're going to see the Atlanta Hawks and the Heat take on at 7 p.m., and then right after that, it's going to be the Wolves and Lakers at 10 p.m. Eastern. I feel like a lot of people that didn't like the play-in tournament are now coming around knowing that this is like March Madness style, you know? Like what? Just
I wouldn't go that far.
It's a little bit, guys.
But
I
feel what you're saying.
You
Yes,
know, like it's a lot's riding on it. The pressure's there.
I think because the NBA, they're all into the load management epidemic that's stricken the NBA. Games, right? Nobody cares. Players and everybody openly say the regular season doesn't mean anything. Right now, to finally have games that means something where your season is over. I think that's what's most exciting, is that there's actually meaningful basketball going to be played.
Well, I think
finally.
It's also showing us that the deterrence to tanking is working. All these teams that could have actually tanked are now like, you know what, man, we're close enough. You might as well make the push.
The Mavericks,
they waited till the last game of the year to be like, actually, we're going to be sitting these guys. But look at the Raptors. They could have been tanking, but they chose not to. Speaking of the Raptors, they do take on the Bulls on Wednesday, so we'll be back to talk about that. That actually is more of an elimination style game like March Madness, because one loss and you're out. But for us today, it's going to be the Hawks and the Heat take on tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. The Heat actually have the home court advantage there. The game will be in Miami, and the winner of that will advance to the playoffs. So, guys, I'm going to leave this super open-ended. Jelani, who's winning this?
Miami. And look, I'm a huge Trae Young fan. I love Trae.
We know.
I don't like these reports saying that the Hawks are trying to trade Trae. That was by Kevin O'Connor, I believe. But yeah, I like him a lot, but I just think the Hawks, man, this year has not been it for the Hawks, man.
Yeah.
We understand what's happened with their coaching situation and how McMillan, that thing didn't work out. Quinn Snyder, good coach, he's there now, but I still see so much inconsistency with Atlanta. They are the definition of an average team. They are.
Well, they're 41-41.
Yeah, and if you're looking at like how their wins and losses have gone out throughout the year, it's been tough. So I think in this spot, you're looking at a guy like Jimmy Butler, right? You know what is going to happen. In games that matter the most, he always shows up, right?
Yeah.
So that's a guy I could look at and I could say, yeah, I trust Jimmy Butler for sure. And I think an X factor in this game is going to be Tyler Hero. I think if Hero could give me 20 plus, right, which we've seen him do for the last 8 games, he's been over that mark. He did touch 30 against Toronto, by the way. I know, albeit without Jimmy Butler, so we have to show up. But yeah, he's been able to score. I think if Tyler Hero could, provide that spark offensively, along with Butler, along with what the other guys could do, like Bam, I think it's gonna be a long night for the Hawks. So we'll see what happens. I also want to say this real quick before I give it to you guys. The Hawks, they have trouble with the Heat. They really do. And I'm looking at Trae Young, who I mentioned earlier. He has troubles with Miami. Miami knows how to cover this man. Okay, Eric Spoelstra, he has the set game plan to limit him. Okay, against a lot of other teams, Trae will shoot at a high clip. Not against the Heat. Okay, 19% from downtown. All right, over the last stretch of games that he's played against them, and 33 from the field, or 34 from the field. That shows you all you need to know, right? The Heat know how to cover this man.
If you look at the last year, the playoff series they had, where I think the Heat won 5 games, Trae was held to 15 points per game on 31% shooting. They blitzed them every time they can get. And that's why I think DeJounte Murray is going to play a big role in this, because they're going to throw bodies on Trae. How does DeJounte, can he score on a one-on-one situation? Can he create his own offense? Okay, they have guys like DeAndre Hunter, Bogan Bogdanovic, right? They have guys that can score, but Trae is going to be the focal point. They're going to center everything around him, because, he, again, kind of an all-NBA year this year, right? Trae is averaging 26, and I think it was, 10 assists a game, right? That's, all NBA numbers. And again, I think with the Hawks was, after that 2021 Eastern Conference Finals, where I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here in Atlanta cooking that, they can maybe break through and join, the ranks of the elite of the Eastern Conference. And me and you both thought that they had a chance to really take that step with the addition of DeJounte Murray and become, an elite Eastern Conference team. And the up and downs, we've heard a lot about Trae's character and his lack of leadership in the locker room. and that could be the key as to why they might want to move off of him, have a true leader in the building. But again, I think Atlanta has a chance to win this game. I think the 5 points is a little too big for my liking, especially for a team in Miami that has one of the worst offenses in the NBA, right?
You know, I was thinking that I was giving the edge to Hawks here, just given the offensive game that they have, obviously, in Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. You've got John Collins, you have DeAndre Hunter, all those guys. Even Clint Capella is a pretty nuisance presence in the paint too. But I was looking it up. And the Hawks and Heat are actually very similar when it comes to their offense. When it 3-point, Hawks 35%, Heat 34%. Field goal, Hawks 48%, Heat 46%. Free throw, Hawks 78%, Heat 83%. The only thing that's stopping them there is the points scored, where the Hawks score about 118 points per game, but the Heat score 109. But I think in that level, you are going to give the edge to the Heat just because of their defensive prowess there. And you've got Bam there who can pretty much neutralize anybody in the paint. And Butler's good at that too. We saw Udonis Haslem had his great game against the freaking Magic the other night, you know, where Duncan Robinson also came through. So I'd be kind of worried if I'm the Hawks here.
I would be worried just because if you're looking at it, the last like 10-ish games or like 9-ish games where they've played these guys, they just don't have success against them. Yeah. All right. Miami 7-2 against them last night. Right. And then if you're looking at this season, you know, in the grand scheme of things, they've won 3 of those games, right? 3 or 4. That's Miami. So
and 3 at home.
That's right.
All
so I think here, if you're obviously somebody that's betting or looking at this game, you're going to lean towards a Miami, right? In this spot. I'm not going to say that Atlanta's going to fold. I think it's going to be a close game. That's my expectation. But the way that Spoelstra finds a way to get the ball out of Trae Young's hands to make him uncomfortable, I think this could be a spot where the Hawks struggle. Because if Trae doesn't, let's say Trae doesn't, you know, have a good game, right? You're going to look at, obviously, like Justin said, DeJounte Murray. Does he show up? Who else is going to, you know, pick up the load offensively? And then when you're looking at defense, because remember, defense is very important here, the Hawks do not have a great defense either. All right? Since All-Star break, they're 6th worst in the league defensively. So I'm looking at that too. Let's say Miami has a good shooting night, right? And they've been playing a bit better as of late. Miami, they're you know, on the come up slowly, right? And I know it's so late in the year to be playing, you know, good basketball, but they're finding a way to shoot the ball better. So let's say they do that, you know, come this game, it's gonna be tough for Atlanta to win the game.
To be honest, like if you look at like I have the games played for the Miami Heat, some of their most prominent players, out. Right? And they have the fact that they were 6 games above 500 this season for the amount of man games they lost. Yes. Look, Jimmy played 64 games. Bam played 75, which is the second highest on the team behind Max Strus, who played 80. Tyler Hero played 67. Kyle Lowry only played 55 games. Victor Oladipo only played 42 games, right? The fact that they're missing all these players and that Eric Spoelstra and this Heat culture still got them to, the 7th seed, but they were 6 games above 500. You know, they were battling with Brooklyn until the last couple games to get the number 6 spot. This team has been playoff tested. They know how to win when the games matter the most. Atlanta has been a major disappointment this year. They have the firepower. Absolutely, they have the names and the firepower to compete with them. But I think that Heat culture is just so important, especially this time of the year, right? And I think if they face Boston, I'm not saying they're going to beat Boston, right?
No,
but they can make it very tough on Boston,
series.
Which then in a second round series against a Philly, right, could be an advantage for Philly because Philly's going to wax Brooklyn, right? If they face a beat-up Celtics team because the Heat play physical, they play tough defense, that could really help out Philly in the second round series. So I think this could be this potential Boston and Miami first round series could really have an impact on the remainder of the Eastern Conference playoffs.
I don't know how I feel about
You're
that.
You're a Celtics fan.
No, it's not just that. It's just the fact that I think when you talk about how the Heat have struggled, so have the Hawks. There are 2 teams that we expected them both to be doing way better at this point in the season. They should actually have been in the playoff picture and not fighting in the play-in spot. But in that moment too, I'm like, yeah, they're better than the Hawks, but are they still a better team overall? Like, do they even look like what we kind of thought they would be last year? But that's another, well, I think we'll figure that out tomorrow. I do want to ask before we quickly go, there's 3 guys on the court tomorrow night in that game in Miami between Butler, DeJounte Murray, and Trae Young. Who's the best guy on the court?
Butler. I think he will show up because it's a game that matters the most, right? It's a game do or die. Obviously they could, if they lose, they could play another game. But I'm saying when the pressure is there, Jimmy Butler has showed up. I've seen that before. I've seen it in conference finals. I've seen it in NBA finals, right? So Jimmy Butler.
Well, I agree with you. Jimmy Butler is the most battle tested, the most proven playoff guy on the court of everybody. But Trae Young has the ability to just take over games and put up monster stat lines. So, yes, I think Jimmy Butler tomorrow will be the best player on the court, but it would not shock me at all if Trae goes for 27 and like 15 assists, right? That would not surprise any of us, and the Atlanta Hawks win.
Well, for something that was so heavily criticized, the play-in has taken a lot of people by storm. Starting tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., we'll see the Atlanta Hawks take on the Miami Heat in Miami. And whoever wins that is going to get a one-way ticket to the playoffs. We'll see you guys next time on Hoop Talks.